Hello everyone and welcome to this latest call centre helper interview. I'm delighted to be joined by Helen Pettifer, and today we're going to be looking at vulnerable customers and some of the research findings that have come out of the 2024 call centre helper report. So Helen, looking at what's happening with vulnerable customers, why do you think so many contact centres are falling short at the moment?
It's a really interesting question, actually, Megan, and I'm seeing a lot of conversations with my clients and potential clients around this at the moment. I think the biggest concern at the moment is around agents identifying vulnerability. So they may not have the skills to be able to pick up on those cues. They might be missing trigger words. They might be missing some of the nuance indicators that person may be potentially vulnerable. But then if they are picking up those cues, those indicators, they don't always have the confidence to know how to start the conversation. So if there hasn't been that open disclosure from that customer that, I'm in difficulty or I need some additional support, they often feel a little bit worried about asking, you sound as if you might need some additional support. What does that look like? But they haven't got the confidence to start those conversations. They're worried about saying the wrong thing, or they're worried about causing offense, or even potentially using the word vulnerable. There's a big sort of discussion around whether vulnerable is the right word, and there are still some agents that are using it in customer conversations where it can be quite upsetting or concerning for those customers to be considered vulnerable if they don't see themselves as vulnerable.
No,
Um, and then, of course, when they have identified that there is vulnerability, they don't really know what to do, what support's available, where they can move that conversation forward. So there's sort of some of the things that I'm seeing with regards to sort of call center and agents having those conversations.
Well, it's certainly a complex issue, and there's a lot of
Mm.
things to be considered. And that aside, there are clearly some contact centres who are doing it well. 58%, in fact, feel that they are doing enough to support vulnerable customers, and that is up from last year's results as well. So when in that situation, what does good look like? What are these contact centres doing that means that they are doing a good job of supporting vulnerable customers?
I would say probably there's four things that those call centers are doing correctly. They, on the first point, they are training their staff. They are giving those team members the skills, the confidence, the resources to feel equipped to be able to manage those conversations. As I mentioned, they know how to pick up those indicators. They know how to start those conversations. They know what support's available, and they can just connect with that customer and just sort of think, it's okay, we've got you, we can support you, we can help you with that situation. So my first one is actually staff training, um, and making it regular. So not just a one-off training, but it has to be rolled out every year. Annual training, so that those team members, even if their confidence wanes, they know that they're going to, have that refresher training. I mentioned about resources, making sure that they have those resources in place. They've got sort of say backup questions. So if their mind goes blank or they're feeling a little bit panicky, how do I start this conversation? They've got crib sheets, they've got quick guides, they've got questions that they can quickly turn to and sort of think, oh, this would be a helpful question in this situation. So they're not flying in that conversation blind. Um, One of the biggest things that I'm finding as a bit of a barrier is actually time. Agents having the time to have those conversations. They're worried about, can I spend longer on this conversation with this customer, because I know that there's other customers backing up. But the contact centers and the organizations I see are doing it really well are those that are just allowing those agents to have those conversations. They're organic, they're taking them off the clock. They know that actually if we spend a little bit longer with this customer, it will prevent any repeat calls, it will prevent complaints further down the line. And then also it improves agent well-being as well, because they're not feeling stressed. They
Mhm.
want to help, but their hands are tied because they've only got a few minutes to have that conversation. So I'm a huge fan of just ditch the clock, let those agents have the conversation that organically grows, and they've got that time. And then the last one is support. They know that the team around them, their team leader, their manager, the organization has their back. So when they are having difficult conversations, they have the ability to maybe just step away, catch their breath, grab a cup of tea, talk to somebody. They're supported throughout the whole of those conversations, because it's so important. The conversations that agents are dealing with now are so emotive, very distressing, very difficult, and for some people that can be quite traumatic. So making sure that they are supported to boost their resilience, boost their well-being, so they can then continue to give back to the customers that they're supporting. So they're my sort of 4 top tips to make it work well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing those, Helen. As always, it's really lovely to talk to you, and there's some great tips and advice in there on how those people who maybe are a bit behind with where they're at with vulnerable customers, you can really kickstart their journey and implement small changes and start making a big difference. And if you'd like to find out more and download the survey, it's available to do so now.